Awesome. Thank you everyone for sticking around for the grand finale of today, or at least that's what I like to think of it as. The bitter end, the final session of day one. Really appreciate you sticking around. I know it's probably been a long day and you've probably learned a lot, and if you're like me, your brain is like mush right now, but I'm glad you're here because we have a great panel here today. 4 esteemed panelists representing 4 different educational institutions from across the country, and they have a lot of great information to share, including best practices and their workflows at their respective institutions. My name is Christopher Martin. I'll be moderating the session. I've been on this panel a couple times before, and it's quite an honor to be on the other side of the stage, I guess. Really glad to be here. I'm with the University of Pennsylvania IT department, where I've been for 6 years. We do a lot of audio and video production, and I've been involved in a lot of live streaming, particularly with our online courses and some of our live events. So if I feel like I have anything useful to say, I might jump in as well, guys, if you don't mind. Questions are welcome throughout the presentation, so please jump in if you have anything to say. We will also be saving some time at the very end for questions as well. So whatever works best for you, whatever is most useful for you. So just to get an idea for who's in the audience today, and for our panelists especially, to tailor the conversation a little bit, I wanted to get a sense of who's out there. So if you could just raise your hand if any of the following are true. Please raise your hand if you are currently working in the education industry. Okay, cool. And are you doing video production or audio production? Cool. Any live streaming in the education? Okay, cool, great. How many people are creating educational video in some capacity? It could be corporate video, it could be how-to videos, something that's helping customers or people? Okay, a lot, cool. And how many people think they are going to be doing that sometime in the near future but aren't currently doing it? Okay, all right, minority. Cool. Great, well thank you so much for that audience participation. So just to put some perspective on the topic we're about to talk about, best practices for video in education. If you think about it, the role that video has played in education is really incredible. I'd be willing to bet everybody in this room has learned something from watching YouTube videos. I should rephrase that, something useful watching YouTube videos. We've all learned something for sure. Online video has completely transformed how we learn things. So it's a no-brainer that educational institutions have also embraced it as a way of educating students, and they can do it now with students around the world in real time, which is just incredible. So, give me a second trying to find my cursor. So the physical classroom, in other words, is no longer a limitation. The doors have been blown completely off. Now when we think about education, we think about the traditional classroom. That is, time spent in the classroom is face-to-face with the instructor. It's a lecture. Maybe you come to class and you take an exam or a quiz, then you go home and do some homework. Maybe you watch an online video as in a supplemental kind of way, or do a supplemental reading. That's the traditional classroom. Nowadays, flipped classrooms have become really popular. It's kind of the reverse. So you are expected to come to class already kind of knowing the lecture material. So when you get to class, you're using that time to do hands-on application, workshops, working in groups to apply that knowledge. Distance learning has become really popular, also known as hybrid learning, where there might be a live class going on, but there's also people from afar tuned into that class, and maybe there's students in the room. But the students from remote are just as much participants in that class. Then there's the online classroom. Not much to say. Everything is online. And lastly, a trend that has been really popular lately has been what is known as, or what are known as MOOCs, which I believe is the worst acronym you will hear in this session, but I'm not positive. No money back guarantees on that. Massive open online courses. And these were really designed, initially at least, to be free and open to the world. Anybody can sign up and take these classes, and they're known to get tens and thousands of students in them and have been very popular in the news lately. So the one thing these all have in common though today is that there's an online component to it. And to manage that, we have what are known as LMSs, Learning Management Systems. And so you might hear these mentioned throughout the presentation. Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, Desire to Learn are all popular LMSs. Coursera and edX could be considered LMSs as well. They're part of the MOOC space. So anyway, let's get to the panelists. I will stop talking briefly and do some quick introductions. So guys, if you could tell us your first and last name, what university or college you're representing, and a little bit, maybe in a sentence or two, of what you do at your establishment.
I'm Ben Tigner. I work for Alma College. I am the multimedia coordinator. I work under the communications and marketing department, so as well as faculty there. So I teach courses in live production, and we stream athletic events, concerts, graduation, things like that as part of the course. And then I also produce communications and marketing content for the college, and I probably have 6 or 8 students that work for me.
I'm Kyle Zeltmann. I'm from Norfolk, Virginia. I'm at Eastern Virginia Medical School. I'm with the Distance Learning and Instructional Technology Department, where I support faculty and staff in developing and creating learning materials, be it basic video productions or far-reaching video productions, and also support our online students with any technical or training issues that they have.
My name's Gary St. Angel. I'm with the University of Southern California at the Keck School of Medicine. I'm a distance education specialist and run a green screen studio for all our course content, online as well as face-to-face.
I'm Rob Rasberry. I work for Drexel University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in the IT department. I head a team called Video Collaboration and Production. We're basically a content producer for anyone and anybody that needs our services in the university. We do everything from live streaming to video production. We do video conferencing, so we support the entire university.
Great, thank you. So we're going to dive right in and check out each one of your setups real quick, starting with you, Kyle. And we have a demo video for each panelist just to kick things off. Could you tell us a little bit about what your video is about, Kyle?
So my quick video just goes over a few of the aspects that we have our hand in distance learning wise, be it live streaming or content creation.
All right, let's do it. Do we have volume for the...
Are hybrid, so students may come for a residential program, but the majority of their learning materials are.
I'll start that from the top.
Director of Distance Learning. I'm the Director of Distance Learning here at EVMS, and we have 5 online programs. Some of the programs are strictly online, some are broadcast live, and some are hybrid, so students may come for a residential program, but the majority of their learning materials are posted in a learning management system like Blackboard. We broadcast public health lectures in the evening, so there are students live in the classroom and there are also students online. Also, we record our laboratory sessions in the summertime, and we post them for students so that they can review the techniques that they learned. We make sure that the lectures are all recorded so that students can reflect back on what they learned as well.
Great, so could you kind of tell us a little bit more about your institution in a sentence or two, but then get into also how and why you're using online video, and then maybe walk us through what your tech setup is?
Sure. So at EVMS, our quick claim to fame that we'd like to broadcast out there is that we were the first university medical school to birth the first IVF baby, first test tube baby. So the first baby born in a test tube was at our institution some 40 years ago. I say that because there's a need online for a program that offers reproductive clinical sciences, and our distance learning department spawned from that about 15 years ago. Our distance learning director, who is also the program director of this reproductive clinical science program, wanted to take the knowledge and the faculty that we had at the Jones Institute and offer it to students around the world. We didn't really want to keep such a great body of knowledge contained just to Norfolk, so we wanted to offer this program online to students elsewhere. So she bought a license to Adobe Connect and persuaded some faculty members to teach some classes and live stream classes out of a closet in the Jones Institute. That was 2003, so almost 15 years ago, and now we're a little more established. We're not in a closet anymore. We have a full-fledged production studio where there's the first picture. We're in the midst of an upgrade right now. We just got a budget approval, so things are getting upgraded now. So in this studio, we can broadcast and pull in any feeds from the building that I'm in. We have 5 or 6 classrooms that are outfitted with video capture and audio and video in each room. And we can pull in and broadcast out. Like the video showed, we broadcast our public health program in what we call a hybrid format, where we have students that are physically in the classroom and students that are also online at the same time watching that same lecture. So we can pull feeds into the studio and send them out that way. We also have our faculty deliver live classroom or live lectures in Adobe Connect, where they can reach the students in their program. Right now we have 3 completely online programs with another 2 launching this fall, and then we have another 2 in early production with curriculum review right now that will be launching next year. So we're a small medical school. There's only 5 of us in the distance learning department, and we support not only our 5 online programs, but we also support the other 13 programs in our health professions school with any learning materials, any content that needs to be created. It's a simple voiced-over PowerPoint to a full-blown video production that needs to be posted online for students to review. So we do a little bit of everything with a small team.
Cool. Can we get into your offline versus your streaming workflow?
Sure.
So I'll pull up the offline.
So I put my slides into 2 parts, the offline production and streaming production. Since it's essentially just me and another part-time employee, we do all of our production in-house. Like you saw, I do have the production studio. Faculty are big on the green screen. When they walk by, everyone remarks on the green screen. They all want to sit in front of it and have a palm tree put behind them, or everyone loves the green screen. It's useful, but you have to take into consideration your audience and your students, and what are they getting out of a professor sitting in front of a green screen that they are not getting in another way. So back to this, I do a lot of my offline production. Like I said, I try to get out of the studio. I'm partial to Panasonic and the GH4. We do a lot of microscope recordings. Since we're in medical school, a lot of our stuff is done on microscopes, and sticking a camera in front of someone looking at something on a microscope isn't all that entertaining or educational. So we are in the field of capturing from microscope cameras. So all of that can be captured, put together, and produced in post. Ever since college, undergrad, I was a Final Cut user, so it's stuck with me since then. There's 100 different ways to skin a cat, so if one thing works for you, there's no reason to move. So Final Cut it is for me. And we can take these videos and add them to any other authoring tools like Camtasia. A lot of our faculty like to use that for screen capture. And then we take that all, package it all up. We use a couple different platforms to deliver things. Vimeo is what our marketing team uses to put up any marketing videos, getting recruitment videos. Distance learning wise, we're big users of Adobe Connect and Adobe Presenter. Presenter is easy for our faculty to use, and like I said, we bought into Connect 15 years ago, so we're still using it. Like I said, 3 programs Connect works for us in the near future. And right now we're in the midst of testing other platforms. But all that gets packaged up and put on Blackboard. Streaming-wise, on the next slide, like I said, we have a building that is outfit with a lot of cameras in the rooms that we can pull into the studio. We are heavily invested in Blackmagic. There's 2 other production studios on our campus, and Blackmagic is our go-to. Like I said, we just got a new budget approval, so the new Blackmagic ATEM is what's going in my studio, and it's what's in other studios. It's great. Again, there's 100 different things on the market these days. Blackmagic is what we're invested in. And they also have other products that you can use to go live from outside of the studio, like their web producer, which is a great tool. And like I said, we package all that up, put it on Adobe Connect where we can stream these classes, or the professor can sit in front of their desk with a webcam and teach class that way. So that's my streaming and my offline workflow.
Cool, thank you. You're up next, Rob.
Okay.
Fair warning, right?
So this is a just sort of general services video. It was actually done by our co-op. It's an abridged version. And a lot of stuff I'll talk about is sort of more on a general basis, but she did a really nice job with this. So you can get a general idea of what my group does.
Let's jump into it. So,
All right.
a little more about Drexel and how and why you're using online video, and then we'll get into the specs.
Sure. So Drexel University is a private university. It's got about 26,000 enrollees. Video sort of basically is in almost every aspect of education these days. And actually, I'm going to step down so I can see the slide. So just letting you guys know if that's all right. So my group basically is a video production company, so to speak. The way it first starts out is you go to our services page, and over here there is a request video services form, and basically you would fill that out and you basically decide what type of event that the services that you're going to need for us. So I don't know what the next slide has up there. So once you make the reservation, you have an option of deciding whether you're doing a video production, a lecture capture, webcast, video conference, or any other type of event that might require some type of video support. Then what we do is we email the client back, and we go through a pre-production event consult, no matter what it is, whether you're doing content for a course, if you have a guest speaker coming in, high level that needs to be recorded, whether you need 1 or 2 cameras, do you need a video conference? And video conferencing basically these days means any type of technology that has two-way communication. So it's not just H323 that we all grew up with. It's Zoom, it's Skype for Business, it's WebEx, it's GoToMeeting, it's all these collaboration platforms. And then we sit down and we say, okay, when do you need this? If it's a single event, what day is it going to happen? What do you need on site? Or if it's a video production, when do you need this done? When does it need to be completed? And then we go out, set up for an event, do shoot, the content for the client, go back. If it needs editing, whether it's lecture capture or a live event that's archived, we edit that and then we have the client sign off on it. So we support the entire university. There's other colleges and departments that have their own production people. Larger schools, engineering, business, they have their own studios. But we help supplement them if they have too much work happening. And we don't charge. So we get a lot of departments that could otherwise not afford it. They use our services to create videos and content for them. So let's see what we've got on the next slide here. So this is just a quick shot of this is our production studio. We use a black, white, or green screen. It's rather small. Usually it's, you can set up a single subject. And you can see we have a Samurai connected to our Sony FS7. We bought the FS7 because we knew 4K was coming, but typically the production deliverable is 1080. So up until the point where people can really handle that 4K, we will continue to do in full HD, but we're moving towards doing 4K. This is another shot. This is actually Susan Aldrich, who is the head of our Drexel Online department. You usually have a teleprompter in there, standard lighting, green screen, trees, Godzilla, whatever. So, and it's very comfortable. It's small space, but it works. But there are other spaces. This is the LeBeau Business School. They use white screen. They have a interview table here. They have a couple cameras, and we collaborate back and forth. If they need our support to help do production, we help them out, and sometimes we do shoots in there as well. This is one of the LeBeau's audio isolation booths. Audio is a very big component of production. You want to make sure that it sounds right. You don't want not to be able to understand what an instructor is saying, or even a voiceover for a demo video for a department that they're sending out to prospective students. And this is the Drexel Online studio, same kind of setup, teleprompter, green screen, pretty standard kind of stuff. And I believe they use Panasonic cameras. We use Sony's. I love both, to be honest with you. But in our department, we use the FS7. We have EX1s. They're great cameras, workhorses, and they're wonderful. So we also go out into the field, off-site, to do production. So this particular one, we had to do a multi-camera setup in Urban Outfitters, which is a big retailer down in the Navy Yard. The CEO is one of the trustees. He was talking with the president, so they asked us to come off-site, do a full-fledged video production, stage everything. So we're capable of recording these type of events as well. We can do multi-camera. And that's just a wide shot of what the set was looking like with President Fry and our Dick Haynes over there. This is a setup that we did for the culinary school. And so whenever we go into the field, we always like to be redundant, and we always like to have a backup. So we'll record on the media on the Sony FS7, but we'll also either have a Samurai or Ninja hard drive as a backup, just to make sure if something goes wrong, we have a copy of the media that we've done. This is one of our collaboration classrooms. We also do lecture capture. This is fully outfitted with video audio. It has ceiling mics, so that allows you to do hand-free, so the instructor does not have to worry about a lapel or holding a mic up. They can just roam. When a student asks a question, if they're in the back of the room, you can clearly hear them. These are called flip-it tables. This is really built for collaboration, work groups, flipped classroom. The instructor has already given the homework. Now they're going to work in groups. So basically, the students will pair off in their groups. They can flip the lids up, or if they have laptops, they can flip that down and put it on top of it. And we also have smart displays or interactive displays in the back. And at each, what we call pods, we have displays so that each group can see what the instructor is doing, or you can actually have another group send their content over to the other pod so they can view that. And so we record, we archive, we do live streaming from here. So we do a little bit of everything. Okay, what do we got next? So our basic equipment, Sony FS7, the PXWX70. We do have a couple old Canons, and I didn't put the EX1 up there because it's a little older, but it's reliable. We have the Animus Ninja and Samurai that we use for backup. Our, webcast setup, predominantly we use MacBook Pros and Dell laptops. Our predominant webcast platform is Wirecast, IntelliStream. It's great, and we point that to either YouTube, a Flash media server, or Kaltura as far as the repository. For video conferencing, we use Zoom. It's a great product, very easy to use. The faculty really take to it. You can do lots. You can have up to 100, even more people in a session, which you don't really ever want. But you can also archive Zoom right onto a machine or do cloud recording. Skype for Business is starting to get a little traction because it's integrated into Office 365, so it makes it easy for scheduling and stuff like that. And we also still have legacy H.323 Polycom Cisco, hard-coded codecs. For post-production, we use Adobe Premiere, Creative Cloud. We did use Final Cut for a while, but then it's just the university decided that using the Creative Cloud licenses was the way they wanted to go. And we have no problems. Premiere is great. We do our media storage on a shared network drive. We also use Vimeo, Kaltura as another content management system. Lecture Capture, we still use MediaSite a lot. It's a great product. It catalogs very well. We still do use it. And what we're starting to test is the 360 arena. And so we have partnered with our media arts department, the Westfall School, and they have a 360 proprietary camera that they use, and we're testing doing content out with that. And 360 has a lot of potential. And virtual reality and the augmented reality devices, I don't know if you've seen the Microsoft HoloLens, very interesting. So we're seeing a lot of potential in this. So we're testing some things out with that. And that is pretty much it.
Well done, well done. You're up next, Gary. I think you had the longest commute here of the panelists.
All right, so I can see. Oh man, Rob, you killed it. I should have gone before you. To be, very appreciative. Rob Rasberry was my former boss from Drexel University. I came from Drexel. I'm very fortunate enough to have a lot of the experience, and a lot of what I bring to USC is all because of all the great things that Drexel is doing. So I work in the School of Medicine, and this clip is going to show essentially what we do. We are really moving to what Rob just said, the idea of being producers. We're really content producers now in education, and so this video really showcases the level of versatility that we can use with green screen for our doctors and physicians and researchers.
Hi, my name is Ken Janaba, and I'm the Program Director for General Surgery. My chair and I take student mistreatment very seriously.
And we're going to be learning more about community-based participatory research. Welcome.
Thank you. As I mentioned previously, you will submit the practicum approval form to me, your practicum coordinator, once you find a site.
So let's go ahead and just add those digits. We would take the number 2 plus 3 plus 2 plus 2. We would add it. What do we get?
I see you're here for your vaccines.
I am, but I'm a little nervous. We're going to do one of these pathway mini lessons today, okay? Are you guys ready for those? All right, good. Okay, let me see where we are.
So let's look at the 3 major cell types in blood. Here we have our red blood cells. The white blood cells are shown in purple.
So now we're going to do the third part of the neurological examination. I'm going to have you push my hand towards the left. And here is the muscle that is activated.
So really the idea, as you can see from those examples, is trying to use green screen smartly. I know Kyle, mentioned it as well. It's something that we can easily take for granted. It's like, oh, you need a green screen. Well, it's a lot of work. You need the right lighting in order to really create those looks. But for us to be able to have an operating room, to be in a regular classroom, the ability to use, I think you saw folks almost like a weather person using their presentations and to showcase the different styles of presentations. And then we have a smart podium which allows them to annotate on their slides, is all allowing for the professor to really create their own presentation. And our focus is in our Masters of Public Health program. We partner with Pearson, so it's a third-party entity that helps us with the learning management system of our content. Because of online education, and that's starting, to really develop more on the West Coast. Obviously, folks like Drexel and Penn and many of the institutions here on the East Coast have really pushed it for a long time. And so I'll just show you a little bit of our studio. Here, we basically have a 15 by 16 room. We have Silicon Phillips lighting, and that really allows for a softer look for LEDs, so it doesn't really get the professors scared of the presentation. There's our green screen, and we're economical with the cyclorama. Instead of, for example, if you use ProPsych, it's going to be close to $20,000 in some cases to really have something, with those nice corners. And we're able to work with our facilities department to get it to have that similar effect. And so we also, as you can see, we're using these medical stands with our confidence monitors to allow the mobility, so we can kind of see and utilize different views. And then our teleprompter hides the camera. You don't want the camera to be seen. Out of sight, out of mind. They really are able to focus on their presentation, just be themselves. And there's our director of online education, Shubha Kumar. So as you can see, it's really simple, but it allows for flexibility. And one unique thing, as opposed to maybe some of the other folks, this is grant funded. So part of my job is working for another acronym, the CTSI, which is the Southern California Clinical and Translational Science Institute. So this is funded through the National Institutes of Health. And so my position is grant funded. So part of the challenge here versus Rob is it's not general operating that's building the income to the studio. So we charge for our services, and many of the recordings we do are even from outside vendors in the neighborhood who are in need of doing studio recordings. And so this is our basic setup, and so we basically, because it's hard for me to see, I'm gonna do a Rob thing here, go down. So we have our teleprompter camera. Right now we have a Panasonic P2, so it's a little bit older technology. We have the smart podium, which allows folks to annotate. You can use the Surface Studio, which has come out as another means, and then we use Wirecast too. It's very important. So desktop presenter as part of Wirecast is really important to feed in certain signals, so we can get 2 or more desktop into our presenter application for their PowerPoint, for video, etc. And so just down here is just sort of the master control, and then delivery. As Rob pointed out, backup. We have our Adamus recorder, media site. We're a media site house, so that's what we use for streaming, as well as now we're doing like Facebook. We're starting to do Facebook through Wirecast, and so that's kind of the means. And I think the last slide is just the delivery. So content and asynchronous recordings are through Vimeo. It's the high quality factor, and we can send a review link to our professors or the different clients at USC. They can download it really easily, and it's something that sometimes can be challenging, with MediaSite, but we still use it for live streaming. And then, as far as video conferencing, we've moved more toward toward WebEx, and Adobe Connect, as Kyle was saying earlier. And then our MOOCs are really important to us, so we actually have sort of WordPress open courses, and we do have our online Moodle as our means to structure all our courses for the MPH online program. So that's kind of the delivery platform for our courses. And that's it for now.
Cool, thanks. Last but not least, Ben, could you give us a little introduction to your video?
So mine's a little different because I do not operate a distance learning facility or produce content for other faculty. I work for the Communications and Marketing Department, so this is a piece that we put together that we're using on all our social media outlets right now.
Perfect.
So some of the equipment that, like I said, I have about half a dozen students that work with me in the communication and marketing side, as well as I teach courses in live production. So for that's a communication and marketing piece. We have a Phantom 4 that we use for our drone footage. We shoot, everything on there was shot with Canon 70D. We cut everything in Premiere, and we're pretty much all Adobe now across the board for everything. And most of those students will have opportunities to edit that footage, to film some of that footage. I've got 2 that I work with to fly the drone. This is an example of the class that I teach. We use a TriCaster Mini HD4 SDI. In that class, we bought that a year ago, and that goes in the case and goes all around campus. So unlike my peers here who have a set studio with a facility that people come to them with, we take our studio out onto campus and produce graduations, theater events, symphony orchestras, athletic events, either as part of a class. I think this one, yeah, this is one of my students who was hired then. I will also use my class kind of as an opportunity to distinguish which students kind of go above and beyond. And we will hire them on the marketing and communication side of the ledger to help produce a number of those live events. Then additionally, within the coursework, students will produce some live events as part of the class as well. So they do the whole thing though. They direct it, they create all the graphics for it in Photoshop, they operate our cameras. We just bought 3 new Panasonic DVX200s. That's what we use. We were a Sony shop. We had some NX5s for a number of years that were really great. And the kids pretty much just chewed right through them. So we looked at staying with Sony because we really liked them. We just got a really good deal on the Panasonics, and we're very, very happy with them. But they're responsible for not only the actual production, but the logistics as well. So I will have a student act as a producer who then has to coordinate with, say, the theater department to find out when these doors will be unlocked so that we can get into the studio and run all of our cables, and they have to make sure that we have enough outlets, and we're not going to blow a fuse, and all the logistics of actually making it happen, as well as the students that are creating the graphics for the shows, running the cameras, the audio, all that kind of stuff. We do typically one course a semester. I average about 12 students in the class. And depending on which semester it is, it will either end with live streaming our graduation ceremony or live streaming a Christmas concert or a holiday concert or something like that on that end. So that's how we've kind of incorporated live streaming into our academic side as well as into our communication and marketing side.
Cool, thank you. So let's talk about challenges for producing video for education. What are some of the biggest challenges, would you say? Or in other words, what do you think is most important to get right when producing video for education?
Well, I think the big thing now is anyone can shoot video these days, so the ease of use is no longer a problem. I think you need to cater it more towards your audience these days. If you're able to work with a instructional design team, because if you're going to take time to do a full-blown production and all these man hours in pre-production, post-production, and that sort of thing, you kind of want to take that same mentality and apply it to the actual design of the content, because you don't want to have this great video product to put on the web that doesn't really either engage your students or it just scratches the surface of the content that they're getting. So if one of the challenges these days, and it's becoming a lot more common now, is having instructional designers or the instructional design team working with your faculty to help design the content and cater it to their students, especially on distance education.
Absolutely, and I would say, for the most part, and I'm sure a lot of you guys face this too, is you're working with faculty who are really, challenged by technology and who don't want to change, and so on the flip side, sometimes even when we have the best, instructional design team, you basically have to do, the chunking method, which is basically, okay, we're going to take his 2-hour lecture and we're just going to chunk it down into like 5 to 6 minutes, because you're dealing with somebody who's just not going to change. And so, on the totally opposite spectrum, in some ways, that's what you have to do on that limited way, because the reality is nobody's going to sit and watch a 2-hour lecture, even if it's done really well and well produced in green screen or what have you. It's important to recognize the limitations of people's attention.
I think to add on to that a little bit, you have to understand what your client wants, because the students and the faculty are ultimately our clients. And so we have to understand their needs and try to give them the best product deliverable as possible. And not only on the video production side, but make them understand what platform do they need to use. So as an example, if a client comes in and says, hey, I've got a speaker coming in and we're going to have an audience of maybe potentially 2,000 people, and it'd be great if all of them could talk back and forth all at once and blah, 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 and all this stuff. No, wait, look. You either want to do a webcast where a lot of people can watch, and maybe you can send a Q&A to somebody who moderates and tell the speaker, hey, we have a question online, such and such, ask this. Or scale it down and maybe have 10, 20 people who can have that interactive, two-way synchronous communication. So understanding what your client and what their needs are is very, very important.
Yeah, I'd say defining scope is probably the biggest thing for me, even though it's differently. Obviously, the college recognizes the cost savings that are part of having a course whereby you eliminate hiring a third party to produce graduation events or these things, but they then have to understand that you are handing the keys over to a 19-year-old kid. who's taking this class perhaps only because it fits into their Tuesday, Thursday afternoon schedule, not because they necessarily want to go into this as a career. So we're going to do our best to train those students to get them to make this a successful production, but you then as the college have to accept the fact that you have chosen to save this money in this area, and by not hiring professionals to come in and do this third party, you're going to be a little more lenient to these 19-year-old students who are going to be doing their best the first time they take the car out and drive it.
So we've mentioned quality and length of video. Are there any other keys to maintaining student engagement for educational videos, would you say? Has anything noticeably worked well in your experiences?
Oh, well, I think, Gary, you hit the nail on the head with chunking. Has anyone in the audience taken an online course before? No one likes sitting in front of a lecture or a video that takes an hour long, especially when you can do it at home on your bed with 30 other things distracting you. So not only will chunking keep their attention span, but also keep them on track, or as best they can, keep them from sidetracking themselves at home, because it's a lot easier to sidetrack yourself at home than it is in a traditional classroom.
Absolutely. Chris, I think you need to add your 2 cents. I want to make sure that you get to speak too, because I know you have many, and you have a huge resource too. So.
Well, just very briefly, I will mention that engagement, the reason I bring engagement up is because it's something we're very interested in at the University of Pennsylvania, just providing means for two-way interaction so that a webcast isn't just a broadcast, that it should be more than just a one-way stream to an end user. There should be ways for interactivity, such as there should be people watching the Twitter feed, or people should be watching a discussion forum, so that there can be live responses from instructors in real time. It doesn't have to be impersonal just because it's online or a webcast.
And side note to that, it's also a little easier to keep your students engaged and interacting in a smaller classroom broadcast. We've been talking a lot about far-reaching webcasts with hundreds of people, but if you've got a classroom of 12 people online, that's easily, you can easily keep them on track with interaction, asking them questions, getting them to respond, and having the students do a little more of the teaching and have them pave the way to where the questions and answers are going.
You know, and one thing, and we've mentioned this before, you know, outside of this, you know, we're talking about video, but especially for online, you know, we do a lot of various techniques that is not just video. You know, some of it is Camtasia style recordings, you know, some of it are using media pieces, interactive media pieces that we work with Pearson, who works with us with our online program. So it's very important to have a variety of tools so that that people are not like bored with just, oh, okay, this is just one video after the next.
What role do you see video playing in the future of education? Do you think there are any trends coming up that we should be looking for, or any new technologies that you think you would consider implementing in the next year or 2 years?
Totally. NDI. Go to the new tech guy that's right out there. I'm serious. Like, you know, the network device interface, you know, that new tech is doing right now is absolutely phenomenal. And for a university, the ability to be able to use our networks that are already robust and have a huge infrastructure, you know, it's set up so it doesn't fail, you know, because everybody needs to be online. And if we can utilize that network as a two-way street for cameras, for somebody who's going to, you know, run the graphics of your live stream, and to divvy up that, you know, is very, very powerful. So I'm really excited about that.
I'm going to say 360 arena, starting with 360 video, and being able to immerse yourself and see a different view or angle of whatever content you're doing. And beyond that, you know, VR and augmented reality seem to be very, very promising. I was at a conference a couple of months ago, and there was I guess an elementary school teacher that had incorporated virtual reality into his curriculum. And basically what he said is, it's one thing for a student to see a regular video or look at a book about a place, and it's a whole other thing when you put on the goggles and actually be there, whether it's a historical battle or something like that. There's something about it that just makes a student just absorb and learn better. And I'm very curious, and I really think that technology is going to play a higher role. I mean, just looking at molecules in 3D or going through some vast architectural, wonder and seeing every aspect of it, it's got great possibilities.
Yeah, and I think, the idea of creating empathy in the medical school, they're looking into that too, because of the idea of creating, empathy for the homeless, or, and then you are able to really understand, the other side. And I think it's very powerful.
Great. This hour is just flying by, and I promised time at the end for questions, so now is a good time for me to ask, I guess. Are there any questions in the room at this time?
What do you guys do about closed captioning?
The question is, what do you guys do about closed captioning?
So, it is the law, basically, and the hammer's gonna come down hard. But the problem is that an institution has to understand that there really, at this point, is no automated workflow that is really 70, even 80% accurate. So you have to outsource it. And that is a huge resource. And, it's something that the administration has to understand that we're going to have to put a big investment into. We can try to use the YouTube or the Camtasia captioning and just drag and speak and take umpteen hours, but if you don't have a large staff to handle that, it's just going to put you in quicksand.
Ditto.
We're looking into, it just came out at NAB, one of the new software, Transcriptive, by Digital Anarchy, and so they're putting a beta release in the next week, but basically it will work with Premiere, and it will use Watson and some other one, and basically you still have to pay for the transcription, but it's basically like $1 a minute, so it's a little bit more economical.
It's done by machine instead of by a person? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So you send an audio file to them, and it does it all on the back end, and then they provide, the text. Exactly. Yep. So yeah, look into it. We're looking into it right now too.
I was hoping somebody had like a
silver
box, like just, hey guys.
Right. Interestingly, this doesn't apply to anybody not using, I guess, Coursera as a MOOC platform, but what they've started to do is outsource to their students across the world. They get volunteer students to contribute subtitles. But
extra credit?
Yeah, but that's only useful if you're using their platform. So, other questions? Yes?
Just kind of to piggyback on that, for your VOD content, are you guys doing anything with localization or translation, or any tips on how to expedite that process? Obviously, subtitling itself is hard enough to have an international audience.
Best practices for VOD?
We work with Ampam Parks Mechanical outside of USC, and they're a construction company. So when they do their videos, they do it both in English and Spanish. So so one of the ways that we do it is we have a designated person from their company who does the Spanish translation, and so he comes in, and because we have Wirecast, we see the text of his Spanish, and we have the exact same version in English, and it's a little bit painful, but we have to kind of like watch it and then line it up, and one of our editors knows a little bit of Spanish to understand where it lines up, but that's a sort of long way of doing it, but it's working right now.
So what are the rules about closed captioning, and when do they take effect?
What are the rules about closed?
There are rules coming in effect, right?
Yeah, they're in effect.
Into it, but could you just thumbnail sketch?
What are the rules of closed captioning is the question.
So as I understand it, any type of like broadcast video or some type of content of that needs to be captioned. Now, however, I don't know whether, even though it may be in effect, I don't know if they're to the point of figuring out how to enforce it.
Yes.
So I forget which institution, is it Stanford or Yale? Somebody took all down their content because of this and are in the process of captioning it.
So the rules, closed captioning rules for broadcast.
Yeah.
Basically, some court decision said that this would apply to webcast.
To some of it, yeah.
What they told me was if it's a class, a face-to-face class, you didn't need to do any videos or even unless you had someone that was hearing impaired. But if you're a fully online course, you have to have closed captioning.
Yes.
Right.
Anybody can be watching it, so use it best.
Right. So for us, because we work with Pearson, they do all the closed caption in the back end. But I know for some of the other schools at USC, it's exactly what you said. They kind of are riding the line, so if somebody requests it, they'll do it. But I think people are kind of just riding this line until somebody says, hey, we need closed captioning, and then it's like, oh, I'm sorry, okay, and because it's just so resource intensive and monetarily as well.
Right. But it's one big court case away.
It is. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Could you talk a little bit about, when you guys are all doing all of this stuff, the online courses, can you talk a little bit about the sort of metrics and whether or not anybody besides you is kind of keeping an eye on this and seeing how all of this effort is paying off?
So, talk a little bit about metrics and how all of this is paying off.
Well, any metrics that we get goes directly to our faculty. Just like any quizzes that they give using learning technologies, they can take analytics from that and guide their course in that direction. In terms of distance learning, we have the ability to find out who's logging in when, who's tuning out, at how long into the video they've left, so the faculty can then go back and figure out what the topic was at that point when they left and restructure their learning material based off of that. There's analytics for everything these days.
So are you finding that it's leading the organization, the university as a whole, to say, okay, let's see how we're doing?
Absolutely. It helps with curriculum change every year.
One of the things is, and maybe Rob could attest to this too, is we use analytics to prove our existence. Because I'll just tell you right now, a colleague of mine at USC basically did not have analytics for their videos. And so, when they had to clean the house, the higher ups basically said, what is the effect? Can you show me like how these videos are making a difference? And he didn't have any analytics to prove it, and his team, including him, were let go. So it's really important that you have analytics to really show, where, like the importance of what we do.
And so, depending upon what technology you're using, we'll sort of be able to give you, how deep you can dive on it. MediaSite does a pretty good job of keeping analytics, who's watching, how long they've been watching, that kind of thing. I know that there are a couple, like Echo Active Learning platform has the ability to, I guess, zone in on certain particular parts of a lecture that were particularly effective. It really depends on like what you're using. We pretty much in general for my group, because we're essentially a general content support team, we log the hours, we make note of what we've done. We take a look at how many people are watching lectures or videos, but we leave it in the hands of each department, whether it's arts and sciences, whether it's a business school or engineering. They're the ones that sort of deep dive into it. And I'm sure that if I had somebody from the Drexel Online department, they would give you a whole different set of metrics that they use.
Well, we're pretty much out of time. I do want to give each panelist one final chance for a final thought. one final key takeaway you'd think would be great for the audience to leave with today. And please, 30 seconds or less each.
I'm going to harken back to the instructional design team. If you're, like I said, if you're going to put all this effort into creating content, you might want to create that content in the correct way. We have instructional designers for in-class programs. And it's really necessary especially necessary for the online programs.
I think it's important to remember you're not alone. So contact us. I partner with Rob all the time, even though I've left Drexel. And so you can only learn with other folks in universities, and we're very open.
I'll just double what they said and we can finish up. No, so basically just be ready for anything. Create a quality product, make it engaging, and that's about all I can say. I mean, that's what we're here. We want to make it so that the students learn, so that the educators can teach, and that's our goal. And video is just a big extra tool to use in that.
How about you, Ben? You've been quiet.
Chris, you got to say something. You have to say something from the Penn perspective.
Oh yeah, it's all about engagement, all about interaction. Make it personal, make it about the students. Technology shouldn't divide teaching from student engagement. It should unite students and the instructors. So that's my final thought. Thanks so much, everyone, for attending. I do have good news. There is a networking reception starting now that supposedly has adult beverages right down the hall. And thanks so much for sticking around, and special thanks to our panelists here. Let us know if you have any questions. We can probably stick around for a little while and talk about them. Thank you.